What do we do when we have a clan in the game that is consistently topping every single tournament? We give it a clan booster. Hello and welcome everyone to today's set breakdown. We're going to be taking a look at the Gear of Fate clan booster, which is solely focused on Gear Chronicle, and it is the climax booster of the previous Vanguard anime season. So this features support just for Gear Chronicle and some specification. Has 1 GR as well as 1 SGR, has 5 triple rares, 7 double rares, 14 rares, and 18 commons, the usual stuff. And there is the next stage reprint, as well as 2 types of SP packs, which you see on your screen right now. We have the Chrono one, which features all types of bling bling and money, as well as the Ryuzu one, which features some bling bling but not as much money. And there's also on top of that 8 other SPs, so that's kind of it for the bling bling part of the set and specifications. So let's get started, and I've split this into basically the archetypes that the set supports. So we have Colossus, Chronos Command, Chrono Fang, Chronojet, the Legion. But let's just open up with the GR and SGR before we go into anything else, which is Deus Ex Machina Demiurge. Now, Demiurge is actually my favorite card in the whole set because it is drawn by Masami Obari, who is he's basically my idol. He's my favorite artist. He drew Daikaiser, all the Daikaisers. He drew Glendios. He was one of the lead animators behind Gundam Build Fighters. He also works on Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. He's worked on a lot of Super Robot shows in the past, so I'm a huge fan of him. So when I saw that he's doing art once again for Vanguard, I got really hyped, and it's the art that kind of steals this card for me. But anyway, skill-wise, this card is definitely not that great, and it's already just swinging by at 200 yen in Japan, which is about $2. So I'm waiting for it to drop to that much in English, and then I'll pick mine up. But let's go over his skill. He has an act where you can choose 12 face-up Zodiac Time Beasts with different card names from your bind zone and put them into your drop zone. So that's the cost. You choose 12 cards from your drop zone, any 12 cards, put them on top of your deck in any order, and until end of your turn, this unit gets a skill that when it attacks until end of that battle, your opponent cannot call grade 1 or greater cards from hand to Guardian Circle. So basically, you have to spend the entire game filling up your bind zone with different Zodiac Time Beasts, and there has to be 12 of them, and only then can you put them all in the drop zone and then basically put 12 cards back into your deck on top of your deck in any order you want. And well, unless you're facing the mirror match, they'll probably stay there as the 12 cards, but right now the engine to get them on there is so slow. I can see this deck becoming stronger in the future if they give it good enough support. In the way, like, what I mean is that they need to give it support that makes getting those 12 Zodiac Beasts so fast. Like, it has to really get there by like turn 6 or 7, because right now it takes ages. And I gave this deck a try, and honestly, I was trying to be optimistic, but honestly, this card is not that good. It's just the art that is absolutely beautiful, so that's about it. Now, before we continue with this set, I also want to mention that the trial deck for Gear Chronicle also released at the same time, and this is mostly focused on the Zodiac Time Beast, which helps the Demiurge deck a lot. So let's go over some of the cards that I feel are important. First off, we have the Stride Metapulsar Huang Long. His skill is at the end of battle, the attack the Vanguard. You can count +1. If you do, you choose a grade 1 or greater face-up card from your bind zone and put it into your hand, or call it to rearguard circle. So for those cards that like you randomly bind and you just want to get rid of them, you can basically put them into your hand or call them to rearguard circle. So if you accidentally bind a Perfect Guard, for example, it can kind of work for that. Next up, we have one of the best cards in this trial deck, which is Chronojet Dragon G. He has 2 skills. The first one is a continuous on Vanguard Circle. During your turn, for every 2 face-up cards in your G zone, he gets +5k, and all your Zodiac Time Beast rearguards get +1k. So this is kind of also pushing a new build for Gear Chronicle, which would kind of maybe steer away from Time Leap. Next up, his second skill, though, does not help steer away from Time Leap, which is when you stride a Gear Dragon or Zodiac Time Beast on top of him, you can choose up to 1 card from your hand, call it to rearguard circle, and choose up to 1 of your rearguards and Time Leap it. So it's something, but the first skill to me is very important because it allows him to, after, like, for example, after next stage swing, that first skill is going to be really, well, it's going to hurt because it's for every 2 face up. So when you have 4, it's a +10. It just keeps on stacking. So moving on, we have Chrono Fang Tiger G. So his skill is also pretty nice. I also like his art a lot. It's a GB1 on Vanguard and rearguard circle. At the end of the battle, you attack the Vanguard, you can soul blast 1 and choose 1 of your other rearguards and bind it face up. If you do, you can choose 1 of your opponent's rearguards in the same column as this unit, and they have to put on the bottom of their deck. So a little bit of field control, and I've seen a lot of the Zodiac Time Beast decks play this as a 1 or 2 of, so yep. Now I'm gonna go over all the generic, like the vanilla Zodiac Time Beast after, but we have some that have skills. The first one is Monkey. So Chrono Monkey has a skill that when he's placed on rearguard circle, and if you have a Zodiac Time Beast Vanguard, you can count +1. If you do, he gets plus 5k on GB1, so it's really not that great. Next up we have Chrono Beat Buffalo. His skill is a continuous. If you have a grade 3 or greater Zodiac Time Beast on your Vanguard circle, he has plus 2k, which is also on your opponent's turn. And Chrono Ethos Jackal actually has a similar skill, but it's when he attacks a Vanguard. If you have a Zodiac Time Beast on your Vanguard circle, he gets plus 4k, so he's an 11k attacker on GB1. And then we have Chrono Charge Unicorn, who when he's called, you can choose one of the other Zodiac Time Beast units and give it plus 3k power. And the last one is Chronojet Dragon G. His skill is when your other unit is placed on rearguard circle other than from your hand, you can put him in the soul. If you do, you search your deck for a Zodiac Time Beast with the same grade as that unit, call to rearguard circle and shuffle your deck. Not that great, but his art is nice and he's a Zodiac Time Beast, so we gotta make that count. The final card that isn't a Zodiac Time Beast is Steam Sniper Lishma, and she has a Time Leap ability that is not on GB1, so at the end of the battle, she boosted a Vanguard, you can Soul Blast 1 and discard a card from hand. If you do, you can Time Leap her, meaning you can go into Kalibum on, well, turn 2 essentially, maybe turn 1 if you have the draw trigger. So yeah, it's something. And her second skill is on GB1. When she's placed on rearguard circle from bind zone, you can count +1 if you do draw a card. So a little bit of, you know, it's an interesting card. Not sure if we're going to see it played, but I thought I would mention it. And now here are the vanilla Zodiac Time Beasts. So we have Serpent, Peccary, Rabbit, Sheep, Leghorn, and Hamster. So these are all just generics, but they are Zodiac Time Beasts, so we do have to mention them. Let's not waste any time though, and let's get right into the main character support, which is the Chronojet Support, and there's actually not that much, but it definitely impacts the game. First off, let's go into the card that just screams GG, quite literally, which is Chrono Dragon Gear Groovy. He's got two skills. The first one is an act once per turn. On GB2, you can flip another Gear Groovy face up in your G zone, and if you have a heart with Chronojet, you can choose 2 auto abilities from 2 face-up Gear Dragons in your G-Zone. So if you have 2 face-up Gear Dragons in your G-Zone, you choose their auto abilities and Gear Groovy inherits them. So he can copy Ragnarok, Next Stage, that kind of stuff. So you just copy them and then he's able to use them, but you still have to pay the cost that is specified on the card. So you're not going to get away with using a Next Stage. You're like, by using just one Next Stage, you still have to use, you still have to pay the cost that the Next Stage asks for. So, you know, some people don't realize that, so I thought I would just point it out. His second skill is also an act once per turn on GB3. You can Soul Blast 1 and flip any unit face up, and he gets plus 5k until end of turn. So use that skill to maybe flip something face up that you want to use for the GB2, that type of thing. But generally he is a good stride. At first I think he was very heavily overhyped, but now after we've assessed him for quite a while, I think he's still great, but I see him as maybe a 2 of, and you kind of have to design the whole G-Zone around him, kind of. But you can also just play the 4 Next Stage and 2 of this, and it's kind of okay. But yeah, but Gear Groovy is a good card. I definitely don't want to say it any other way. He's definitely great, and he deserves to be as hyped up as he is. Next up, we have Delayed Blazer Dragon. So this is a new grade 2 that quite a few Time Leap decks are playing as a 1 or 2 of. His first skill is when you call him from your deck due to a Time Leap ability and your Vanguard is a Chronojet, he gets plus 2k until end of turn, so he's an 11k attacker. His other skill is when you call him and you have a grade 4 Vanguard with Chronojet in its name. On GB1, you can choose a grade 2 rearguard and Time Leap it. So on play, if you're on a stride, you choose a grade 2 rearguard and Time Leap it, so it goes into a grade 3, and that's pretty much it. Next up, we have the Chronojet specific G-Guard, which is Hetero Round Dragon. So this is the one that counters Demiurge completely. When you guard with it, if your Vanguard is a Chronojet, you can Soul Blast 1. If you do, you choose one of your opponent's rearguards and they have to put it in the bottom of their deck. Then they shuffle their deck and they look at the top card of their deck and call it to rearguard circle. So the fact that your opponent has to shuffle their deck kind of kills Demiurge. It also kills Tsukuyomi if it's not dead enough. And anything that really relies on stacking, it just straight up destroys. Next up, we have Steam Maiden Meshkia. So she has a GB1 skill. When she's called from deck to a Time Leap ability, you can rest her. If you do, you draw a card and give one of your other units plus 4k. Again, I've seen quite a few Time Leap decks play this as a 1 of, so I thought I would mention that. And then Time Leap got its own Perfect Guard in Steam Keeper Labashim. So it's a Perfect Guard, and then the other skill is on GB1. When you call it through a Time Leap ability, you can discard a card from your hand, and then if you do, you can return him to your hand. So it's basically a fetchable Perfect Guard. And the final card for the Chronojet build is Causalities Dragon. When you call him, if your Vanguard is a Chronojet, you can choose one of your units and give it plus 2k, and the time leap ability that when its attack hits a Vanguard, you can choose another one of your rear guards and time leap it. So a little bit of on-hit stuff. It doesn't actually cost anything apart from, you know, it's an on-play skill, but you know, you can always do that on and on by time leaping it. So I really like the art as well. It's drawn by the same person who drew the Kygo Stride Fodder. So that's pretty much it for the Chronojet support, and we're going to be moving on to the next one. Continuing on the trend of looking at important characters, let's move on to the Chrono Fang Tiger support, and the first one of which is a copy of my dear X-Gallop, which is Chrono Tiger Rebellion. And it's actually a better copy of X-Gallop, which makes me even more sad. So, he has two skills. The first one is a continuous on Vanguard, so he gets plus 5k for every 2 cards in your bind zone. So if you've got 6, he's going to get plus 15, and so on. You can do the math. Next up, he has a GB2. When he attacks, if you have a hard card with Chrono Fang in its name, you can Soul Blast 1, you can choose a face down Chrono Tiger Rebellion in G-Zone and turn it face up, and choose a card from your hand and rear guards and bind them face up. If you do, he gets an extra critical and an extra drive check until the end of that battle. So, not only is he getting powered up through you having a big bind zone, but he's also getting a critical and a drive check. I wish X-Gallop had an extra critical because that would help a lot. But this Stride is really well balanced, and if only the deck was as good as this Stride is, but sadly it's not as solid. But I really like the Stride. I really love its art as well. It's beautiful. It's got the whole beautiful mecha feel to it, and you know how much I love that. So, big fan of the card. I would have built a deck if it wasn't so expensive, but we all know how that goes. Moving on, we have the, well, not exclusive to Chrono Fang, but users used it, so this is the Pandora Chimera G-Guard. When you guard with it, you can counterblast 1. If you do, your opponent has to choose a unit in their back row and put it on the bottom of their deck. So no shuffling involved, just on the bottom of the deck. Next up, we have Steam Tamer Nani. As a continuous rearguard skill, during your turn, if you have a Vanguard with Chrono Fang in its name, he gets plus 1k for each card in your bind zone, sadly only during your turn. Second skill is in the bind zone on GB1. At the end of the battle, your grade 4 Vanguard with Chrono Fang in its name attacked, you can Soul Blast 1 and call it to rearguard circle from bind zone. So it's kind of like that other card, but the thing that other card required is Soul Counterblast, so this is just a Soul Blast, so it's kind of nice. Moving on, we have Steam Maiden Shag Kusa, so I think a part of her name is quite, you know, some of us will relate. But her skill is GB1. When she's placed on rearguard circle, if your Vanguard is a Chrono Fang, you can choose one of your other rearguards and bind it face up. If you do it until end of turn, she gets plus 3k power and the boost ability. So you can use her as a 12k booster or attacker. So it's kind of up to you, but it's not really worth to go through that cost just for the attack. So it's up to you. Moving on, we have Steam Maiden Lazina Belle. Another card that the user used, so I'm just going to put her here. When she's put into your bind zone from rearguard circle on GB1, you can choose up to one of your opponent's grade 1 or less rearguards, and they have to put on the bottom of their deck. So yeah, just a bit of field control, nothing too much. Next up, we have Chrono Tigar. So this is the Chrono Fang starter. Has Forerunner as always, and its other skill is when your opponent's rearguard is put into their deck during their turn. If your Vanguard is a Chrono Fang, you can counterblast 1 and put it in the soul. If you do, you choose a face-up card from your bind zone, call it to rearguard circle, and that unit will get plus 4k. So yeah, it basically just functions off of having something in the bind zone that you want to call out and give it power. So, and it's only when something is bot decked during their turn. So that's the starter. Moving on, we have Steam Hunter Emimbara. Has an act skill in the bind zone on GB1. You can counterblast 1 if your Vanguard is a Chrono Fang. You can call it to rearguard circle from bind zone. Then you may choose one of your opponent's rearguards, and your opponent returns that unit to their deck. Has to search for a card with grade -1, then that card, and call it to rearguard circle and shuffle your deck. If they don't find a card that is grade -1, then they can't call anything. So if you spin a grade 0, then it's gonna basically just give you advantage. Next up, we have Steam Maiden Mutti. Her skill is when she boosts a Chrono Fang, you can Soul Blast 1, choose a card from your bind zone and put it into your drop zone. If you do, the boosted unit will get plus 3k, so she's a 10k booster. Not that worth, but it's kind of the art that made me mention her. Next up, we have the best card in the set in Meow Meow Worker. So this has a skill in the bind zone on GB1. At the end of your turn, if your Vanguard is a Chrono Fang, you can put him in the, well, him or her, in the drop zone from your bind zone. If you do, you draw a card and choose a card from your hand and discard it. So it doesn't actually do that much, but the name and the art are definitely top notch. And now we get into the archetypes that I felt like wouldn't even get support. Honestly, we're going to start off with the Chronos command support, which was a big surprise and even got a triple rare slot in Ephemeral Wand Dragon. So, has 2 skills. The first one is on auto on Vanguard Circle and on GB2. When he attacks or is attacked by Vanguard, you can Soul Blast 1 and choose a Chronos command in your G zone and turn it face up. If you do, this unit gets plus 10k power into that battle, so you can either make it a 21k attacker or a 21k defender, but it's only until the end of that battle, so it's not for the whole turn. The second skill is when you stride a Chronos command on top of it, you can choose a face down card in your G zone and turn it face up. If you do, you give your Vanguard plus 10k until end of turn this time. So it's cool, it's quite defensive, but you know, you only have so many Chronos commands in your G zone to turn face up, so I'm not sure how much this will actually be useful. Next up we have Extend Magnedragon. First skill is a continuous GB1. If the number of your opponent's rearguard is 1 or less, this unit gets plus 2k. Also works on your opponent's turn. Second skill is when your opponent's rearguard is put into their deck. If you have a face-up card with Chronos command in its card name in your G zone, he gets plus 2k until end of turn. Just a bit of solid support, doesn't do too much, it's basically just power. So yeah. Moving on to a waifu card, we have Steam Maiden Ishme. It has a continuous GB1 if your Vanguard is a Chronos command and the number of your opponent's rearguard is 1 or less. She gets plus 5k and she can attack a Vanguard from the back row. So 11k attacker from the back row, we Algo Force now. Next up we have ever-changing Gear Peacock. When your opponent's rearguard is put into their deck due to an effect from one of your cards, if your Vanguard is a Chronos command, you can choose one of your rearguards and time leap it. So now Chronos command can even time leap, so we're giving it a little bit of everything, which makes the deck, you know, do some stuff. Next up we have a card that I wasn't sure if I should mention, which is Steam Soldier Urzi. His skill is a continuous on Rearguard Circle and Guardian Circle. If you have a face-up card with Chronos command in its card name in your G zone and the number of your opponent's rearguards is 2 or less, he gets both plus 5k power and plus 5k shield, so he's a 13k attacker or a 10k interceptor / guardian type of thing. So just thought I'd mention him for that. Next up we have Gear Owl Perching at Nightfall, so this feels like a Weiss Schwartz name. As an auto GB1, at the end of the battle it boosted a Vanguard with Chronos command in its name. If you don't have any face-up cards in your damage zone, you can retire him. If you do, you countercharge 2, and if the number of cards in your hand is 5 or less, you draw a card. So very specific. I haven't honestly seen any Chronos command lists, so I'm not sure if this will be played or not, but the fact that once you run out of counterblast you can countercharge 2 and possibly draw a card is pretty nice for the low cost of a retire. The last card for the Chronos command support is Progress Second Dragon. First skill is a continuous. You cannot put into your deck by the effect of your cards with Chronos command in its name. So when Chronos command spins both players' fields, he will not be spun. He's going to stay there. So his other skill is a Time Leap. On GB1, when your opponent's unit is put into their deck with the effect of your card, if your Vanguard is a Chronos command, you can Time Leap him. So he can be put to deck now because you're time leaping him, not due to a Chronos command effect. So that is the end of the Chronos command support. Moving on to the archetype that probably got the most support, honestly, and it kind of makes sense why, is the Gear Colossus. So this kind of goes together with the Fang stuff, but this is its own deck. This is what carries Demiurge, and we're going to start off with also the triple rare slot, which is Prospathea Idea Drone. And look at that flavor text. It's like Death is like the A with the 2 dots and then the alpha A corner stone tremble DT, like that's a Russian D. And oh man, they're trying to be cool here. So I really like that flavor text. So its first skill is an auto on Vanguard Circle once per turn on GB2. When you guard during the battle your opponent's Vanguard attacked, you can Soul Blast 1 and choose one of your grade 2 or less Guardians and bind it face up. If you do, he gets plus 15k until the end of that battle. So even if you guard with a 5k, you can essentially Soul Blast and then put the 5k into your bind zone and he gets plus 15k power. So you're converting that 5k into another plus 10, so he goes up to 26k, so it's basically on stride power. Pretty interesting. I really like the fact that they're bringing in these cool defensive abilities. Second skill is on GB1. At the end of your turn, you can combust 1, choose a card from your drop zone and bind it face up. If you do, you soul charge 1, you choose one of your rear guards and bind it face up. If a card was bound, your opponent chooses one of their rear guards and puts it on the bottom of their deck. So very well rounded. This helps Demiurge way more than anything in my opinion, and is by far the go-to grade 3 for Demiurge, so I hope that everybody that is building that deck has realized that by now. Next up we have Dieperno Idea Drone. His skill is when it attacks a Vanguard and you have a Gear Colossus Vanguard, you can counterblast 1 and bind the top card of your deck face up. If you do until the end of that battle, this unit gets plus 2k and the skill that when its attack hits, you can search your deck for 2 cards, choose a card from among them, bind the face up, and put the other card into your drop zone and shuffle your deck. If the card bound with this effect is a Zodiac Time Beast, you can countercharge 1, which makes it so that you didn't actually pay too much for your effect. You just bound a card face up, which, you know, you already want to be doing in this deck regardless. Next up we have a rare stride in Deus Ex Machina Ergos. His skill is when his attack hits a Vanguard, you can bind the top card of your deck face up. If you do, you choose 1 card from your bind zone, put it into your hand, and choose a card from your hand and bind it face up. So if you accidentally bind something that you don't want in the bind zone, you can replace it with something that you actually want in there. So I quite like this stride. Moving on, we have Garcia, Idea Drone. First skill is on Vanguard and Rearguard Circle. When this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, if there's a Gear Colossus on your Vanguard Circle, you can draw a card and choose a card from your hand and bind it face up. So you don't really make too much advantage, but the binding is part of your whole mechanic, so it's not a bad thing. And it works on both Vanguard and Rearguard Circles. Other skill is GB1. When this card is put into your bind zone from the drop zone, you can counterblast 1. If you do, search your deck for 1 card, bind it face up, and shuffle your deck. So you do quite a few cards bind stuff from drop zone, so you can bind him to counterblast 1 to bind something else, so kind of speeds the process up, but you know, that's how the card goes. Next up we have Kygo, my Idea Drone. First skill is a continuous Rearguard Circle and Guardian Circle. If the number of cards in your bind zone is 5 or more, this unit gets resist, so it can be pretty important at some points. Hello, Daikaiser. Other skill is when he intercepts during the battle that your Gear Colossus Vanguard was attacked, you can search your deck for 1 Zodiac Time Beast, bind it face up, and shuffle your deck. If you bound a card, he gets plus 5k shield until the end of that battle. Sadly, it only activates when you intercept, but it's kind of well rounded, so not too bad. Next up we have a Quintet Wall for Gear Colossus in Chanomai Idea Drone. When you guard with it, you can counterblast 1 if you have a Gear Colossus Vanguard, and if you do, you look at top 5 from your deck and call them to Guardian Circles. Then choose 2 of the Guardians called with this effect and bind them face up. If you do, you countercharge 1 and he gets plus 5k shield. So you lose out on the shield that you would normally have, but you know, you instead get some stuff in the bind zone. And again, look at his flavor text. Disputes. That R is supposed to be an R, but it's a Russian ya, so it's like disputes ya, not needed. Oh my god, Bushido, this is... I'm liking this. Next up we have Anarchy Idea Drone, which is the Gear Colossus. Critical. So his skill is an act, you choose a Gear Colossus from your drop zone and soul and return them to your deck and return this unit to your deck. So you're putting a total of 3 cards back to your deck. You shuffle your deck, look at 3 cards on the top of your deck and put 1 in your hand, 1 in your soul, and bind 1 face up. So basically you're converting the one that was in your drop zone to your bind zone, so it's kind of nice. And I do like this critical is quite important, and you know, criticals with skills are always good, so I thought I would mention that. Next up we have the common Unbounded Colossus. He has a Time Leap ability, which is not on GB1, on Vanguard and Rearguard Circles. At the end of the battle, your Vanguard attack, if you did not drive check any triggers that turn, you can counterblast 1. If you do, you Time Leap one of your Rearguards. So, you know, on a next stage turn, if you got so unlucky that you didn't drive check a single trigger in all 5 checks, then you can always counterblast 1 to Time Leap. So, in case of emergency, counterblast 1 to Time Leap. Next up we have Alifinos Idea Drone. At the end of the battle that this unit boosted a Gear Colossus, you can choose a card from your bind zone and put it into your drop zone and retire this unit. If you do, you bind the top card of your deck face up and countercharge 1. Not too great, but I guess it's a little bit of something. And the final card for Gear Colossus is Voltaro Idea Drone. When he's put into your bind zone from Rearguard Circle, and if you have a Gear Colossus Vanguard and the number of cards in your bind zone is 4 or more, you can put him in the soul. If you do, you countercharge 1, and if the number of cards in your bind zone is 6 or more, you can choose a card from your bind zone, put into your hand, and choose a card from your hand and bind the face up. So it lets you fix the bind zone. It does quite a lot of stuff and it has a lot of requirements, but in general it's an alright and well-rounded Gear Colossus Grade 1. And the final archetype that we'll be taking a look at is the Legion support for Gear Chronicle, and the new Legion is Slow Divider Dragon, who legions with Puzurli. So, his first skill is an auto on Vanguard Circle. When he legions, you can counterblast 1, choose a card from your hand and put it into your soul. If you do, look at top 5 of your deck, search for 1 card from among them, reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck, choose one of your opponent's rearguards with the same grade as the card that you revealed from the top 5, and your opponent has to bot deck the card with the same grade. His other skill is when you ride him, you can take 2 cards from the top of your deck into your drop zone, and if those cards have the same grade as each other, you choose 1 card from among them and return to your hand. A very RNG based Legion definitely not the best one, but it's Legion support, and we're mostly looking at the cards that this archetype is getting supported by, so let's move on. So we have Steam Maiden Lemur, who's a 9k grade 2. When she's placed on rearguard circle and your Vanguard's in Legion, you can combat +1. If you do, you choose one of your opponent's grade 1 or greater rearguards, and your opponent has to put that unit on the bottom of their deck. Actually pretty well rounded. On call, count +1 to spin a grade 1 or more, so definitely not too bad, and it's nice that they're supporting this Legion build. Next up we have Trumpeting Dragon. When he attacks and your Vanguard's in Legion, he gets +2k and the skill that when the attack hits you can count +1, soul +1. If you do, you reveal the top card of your deck, choose one of your opponent's rearguards of the same grade as that card, your opponent puts it on the bottom of the deck, and you draw cards. So hope to god that you, well, I mean, if they still have their starter, you could potentially spin anything, but it's very RNG based. So next up we have Steam Fighter Agar. When you call him, you can soul +1. If you do, you reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, search from them for up to 1 card with the Legion ability, put it into your hand and put the rest into your drop zone. So it kind of speeds up the whole Legion process, because you put 3 from the skill and you have 1 from the Soul Blast, so you immediately have set up your Legion. And the final card for this set breakdown and the Legion build is Trumpeting Worker. When your opponent's rearguard is put into their deck from rearguard circle and your Vanguard is in Legion, you can put him in the soul. If you do, you draw a card, counter charge 1 and soul charge 1. So pretty well rounded, does a little bit of everything. And that is it for the Legion archetype, as well as this entire set breakdown. So let me know what you guys thought. I'm sorry that this is a little bit late, but I've had to put priority on the regionals coverage instead, but I hope you did enjoy this video. I am not too happy with this set, honestly, and I mean, a lot of the cards that did, a lot of the archetypes that did get support are the ones that nobody really thought about, but it's also good. But I wish that maybe Fang got a bit better support, and I hope that in the future Demiurge becomes a more playable card. So that's pretty much it for me today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.